I'm Lauren Green, and this is Bias Bashed. Parents of students at Rockville High School in Maryland are voicing outrage and demanding answers days after police say a 14-year-old girl was raped by two other students inside a school bathroom. A major point of contention was that the accused students were in the country illegally. And this story has stirred debate in the press, but there are varying degrees of how the media is making the connection between this case and the national debate over immigration. Here with his thoughts, senior Washington correspondent for Talk Media News, Justin Duckham. Welcome, Justin.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So the issue is, this story, would it have become the national story that it is if it didn't have this other issue of illegal immigration attached to it?
I mean, this is a very heartbreaking story. It's one that really is just shocking on the face of it, and my heart obviously goes out to the family. But in terms of whether or not it would become a national story, I don't think it would have. What we see the media do time and time again, and this isn't necessarily a criticism, but they will take isolated crime stories in communities and then use them as sort of a national litmus test and something that people can draw conclusions on over broader cultural debates. This is what we saw in Ferguson. This is what we saw with a lot of the recent police shootings. Isolated incidents that in years past probably would not have broken through the headlines suddenly became major issues precisely because it's fulfilling the need to discuss some of the bigger questions we have right now. So right now we have a media focusing on this, and it really is raising some very tough questions regardless of where you stand on the immigration debate.
Well, speaking of the immigration debate, the story really is about defending this sanctuary city movement, which this Maryland is all about, and in defying the federal laws. And this is what the debate seems to be focused on. And how did the media really kind of line up against this? I mean, one of the stories, Bill O'Reilly said on Fox News Channel that he was absolutely outraged that the major networks were not even carrying this story.
Exactly. And, this is something that really requires a lot of caution on behalf of the media. This is, of course, dealing with a very tragic, very hideous crime at the heart of it. But beyond that, when you get to the sanctuary city issue, it's very easy to kind of have a knee-jerk reaction to this, that this is keeping our country, safe by having a crackdown. But it ultimately comes down to breaking up families, asking communities to comply with the federal government, which is something that's always, a little hard when you're dealing with populations that have, big undocumented immigrant communities. And that is something that the media needs to address with some significant nuance. Right now we have a major tendency on behalf of the press to cover things in purely black and white terms. And in this issue, it just can't really be done that way. So the media needs to focus on this. They should present the facts. They should present what people are saying and what it means. But this is something that they should avoid coming out on any clear side, since this is, as I mentioned before, just something that is so complicated and so heartbreaking.
One of the sort of nuance or the sort of issues with this whole immigration issue or the illegal immigration issue is the fact that these two young men, the accused, were like 17 or 18 because they were in a class with an underclassman who was 14, basically an adult in a class with a minor, because he did not speak English well enough. And that's another issue about the immigration issue. So how many people, how many news media outlets have really kind of focused on that? Just the fact the age disparity may have been an issue as well.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of aspects here that you could look at, and of course the media is drawn to the immigration aspect of it since it ties into the broader debate. But there certainly is an argument to be made here for, school security, for, whether or not it's appropriate to have minors in the same classrooms as people who are technically adults, or even just the broader question of, rape culture in general, and whether or not there should be more efforts to try to, educate young men against committing sexual assault or committing rape. And that's something that's not really being discussed. These are all, very pertinent issues for this one. But, of course, we're seeing the media focus on something that, has a broader, conclusion. So I'm not necessarily surprised that it's not getting as much attention, but there are certainly a litany of issues that should be addressed on this.
The sad part about it is there's a young woman whose life has probably changed forever, and two men whose lives will definitely not be the same because they most likely will land in jail. And the fact of the matter is that the media is debating an issue that, they're never going to have a say in.
Exactly, and that really is, one of the more difficult aspects of this. You never really want to use something as terrifying as this to fuel a political debate, especially not one that comes down to immigration, since the immigration debate isn't just tough, it's ugly. It brings out the worst in a lot of people. On either side of the aisle, you have people who will dehumanize immigrants. You have people who will dehumanize those who may actually have legitimate claims to wanting to keep the country safe. and may think that they're in the best interest and may be painted as cruel, racist monsters. And it's unfortunate that, you know, to a large extent, this conversation is being based on something that at the root of it is just shocking.
All right. I want to thank you so much, Justin.
Thank you.
And to hear more media analysis on the week's top headlines, catch Media Buzz with Howard Kurtz on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern and again at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Fox News Channel. I'm Lauren Green, and thanks for watching.